Hi everyone, welcome to TriEssence martial art channel. So this will be our first public YouTube video that is shot outside with a partner after the starting of the COVID-19 pandemic. And as always, I hope everyone is still healthy and safe and staying social distance and wearing a mask when you do go outside so you don't catch the virus. As you can see, we are both still healthy, kind of. We're still alive at least, which is good. Better than some people. Right, I mean, how's your pandemic?
Yeah, it's alright, I suppose. Yeah. Well, funny now that you mention it, I do know somebody that is sort of infected.
Infected?
Well, yeah, not confirmed, but yeah, it's
actually
actually
not like at work or.
No, this it's over a WhatsApp group. So yeah, but they actually went through the whole. They got the whole 10 yards. All the symptoms.
Oh, I see.
But the thing is that with the current winter, this is like the southern hemisphere. So winter is now it's winter on our side, and yeah, the winter is also a flu season.
Mm.
So I don't know whether did they catch the flu or the COVID-19, but they did manage to recover.
I see. Well, like I said in my last couple of videos back, I actually know someone who died from COVID-19. So it is serious, right? Despite what Trump and other people may say, this is a serious threat, right? Rather believe in the CDC and other medical professions than Trump and political figures because they don't have a PhD in virus and pandemic. Anyway, that's a side note. So this video today is going to be a critical review on Tongbei in general. Ever since way before the pandemic started, right, I've had people who email me and message me and asking me to give comment on various Tongbei videos, whether I think they're good or bad. And instead of replying to all of them individually, I've always had this idea that I should make a video to address what I think of these internet Tongbei videos, so that you can watch this video and get a rough idea on how I feel. Now, it's important that this is just that, it's how I feel, or should I say how I represent my lineage's viewpoint, okay? You have to realize there are no objective truths in this scenario. I can't say this is the way to do Tongbei, if you don't do it this way, you are doing it wrong. Because a guy can just say, well, in my lineage, my mother taught me that way. And that's the end of the argument. So there are no objective truths, okay? Everyone do Tongbei in their own way. So I'm not in this video saying this is Tongbei, if you're not doing this, you're not doing Tongbei. I'm not saying that. But within the same context, we can deduce which approach is more optimized or efficient. Okay, if we take combat as the final goal or the testing ground, then we can see, with testing, reasoning, and logic, we can see which approach makes more sense or is more optimized given the scenario. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to be representing my own Wuxing Tongbei lineage's point of view, and I'm going to give you reason to why I disagree with some of the other practices out there. But again, it doesn't mean what they do is completely wrong. It just it's wrong within my viewpoint, from my perspective. Okay, and even in my own system, which is great grandmaster Zhang Ce's Wuxing Tongbei, each branches within our system don't agree with each other. There are certain people that my master was think is doing it wrong. So everyone has their own opinion, right? It's not no one's opinion is objective truth. That doesn't exist. But certain people can perform better in combat than others, so they are better optimized for the goal you are trying to achieve. Obviously, if your goal is just to look nice and look cool, impress friends at parties, or you want to do some downside motion for cultural purpose, then it doesn't matter to you. You can do whatever the way you want. It doesn't matter. But if you go to use it for self-defense or combat, then you have to see whether it is optimized or not. And that's what we are here to do today. And what I said, whenever I criticize or critique something, I always want to piss off people. So if you're one of those people who are easily offended, then you shouldn't watch this video. And if you know the guy that I'm going to critique, or if that's part of your master or grandmaster, then probably you shouldn't watch the video either. So consider this as a forewarning. If you watch this video, then then be prepared that you might be offended. All right. So you agree on the objective truths and subjective truths?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, everyone do things differently. So
Yes.
and I think it's okay. If you prefer to do it this way or that way.
No, yeah.
It really doesn't matter. We're not here to say right or wrong. We're just here to basically people ask us questions, so we give our version of answer. It's not the answer. It's not the only answer. It's what we think it should be.
Yeah,
so this is subjective.
Yeah, this is not like a matter whether Earth is round or not. That's an objective truth. Okay, you can measure it and it is round. In case you're still wondering, right?
Well, it's actually like
it's
to
a
put
squash.
it really,
Yeah.
it's actually a pear shape.
Yeah, it's a squashed sphere. But in case you were wondering, the verdict is out, right? The Earth is a spherical, slightly squashed spherical shape. It is not flat. In case you're still wondering. So that's objective truth. In martial art, there's no objective truth. Everyone do it their own way. And so the first video is actually the first portion of the video. I just took a video that someone sent me that has a lot of different collections of Tongbei doing stuff. So the first portion of the video is from a very famous Tongbei master. I believe he has he's like 7 or 8 duan in China, and he teaches in Europe, I think in Italy and other places. So it turns out he's gonna have a lot of student or grad student, and they're probably gonna dislike me for not liking what they do. Anyway, so we're gonna play the video and then I'm gonna talk about it. Alright, so the biggest issue I have was this Tongbei, and I'm actually gonna say this is the conventional Tongbei. If you're looking for Tongbei, this is what you will find 9.9 out of 10 times. So this is definitely how Tongbei is in general conception, right? So I'm not saying this isn't Tongbei, but I don't like it because I've done Tongbei like this in the past. And the problem is the arms are too floppy. Okay, for an uninformed person, you might think, wow, his hand is really fast. He's like, comfort 4, right? He's like doing all kind of stuff, and he's really fast, and that's intimidating. But we actually have done that for a sufficient amount of time. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything if you don't do it for 2 days. It's not going to work. But I didn't do his lineage of Tongbei, but I did other lineage of Tongbei that's similar, where we have like a whoop, like fast handwork. I did that for many years. And when I actually went out to fight with people who are better trained, right? I mean, I used to think it was good because when I fight people at school, it works, right? When I get in trouble, when I get into a conflict with like another student at my high school, and he comes up like this, that's what people in South Africa do, and I'll just hit him 5 times in the head, and then he gets discouraged, and then he usually backs off. So in some cases it does work. For many years I think it works too. I was pretty happy with what I'm doing, until I met my my back then Yiquan teacher, right, Li Quanshan. He just knocked the heck out of me because these things, it doesn't stop him from hitting me. While I'm doing these things, he just charges me and bam, and hit me right in the head, and then I fall on the ground, and that's that. So I had a rude awakening when I met him the first time in China. That's 2003. And that's how I eventually stopped doing Tongbei and I was converted to Yao lineage of Yiquan. Because I realized that as fast and cool as my hands are, it has 0 stopping power. If a guy is focused on hitting me and hurting me, killing me potentially, if it's in a long distance situation, I can't stop him from doing that as long as he isn't intimidated by the speed, right? Untrained people are intimidated. If you go to a random guy on the street and you do this, they're gonna back off and say, whoa, I don't have any trouble. But a trained person doesn't do that, right? A trained fighter, someone who's experienced, they're gonna just sidestep a bit and then catch you or whatever depending on the lineage they do. If it's a jiu-jitsu guy, he's gonna tackle you. Whatever it is, they're just gonna do their thing, and if you can't hurt them badly in the first 1 or 2 seconds, then the fight's pretty much gone south for you if they can hurt you badly in return. That's the first thing I don't like about this conventional Tongbei, all the stuff that's really fast, and also it doesn't have heavy impact. Okay, so what I like to call it doesn't have stop power. It's like you have a very miniature gun that can still shoot into the guy, but you can probably kill him shooting hard, but he might still walk up to you and stab you to death too. But if you have a gun with stop power, I don't know what it is, probably a Desert Eagle, I don't really know guns. I assume that you go or a magnum would do it.
A shotgun would do.
You shoot him and he's
Or
gonna
9mm would do.
yeah, he's gonna drop. He's not gonna like keep walking forward and stabbing you. So that's kind of the difference here, right? Like you want that stop power. You want to take him out of his plan, and then you can continue with your plan. So that's the first thing. Alright, so now let's just explore a little bit on what I meant by stopping power, right? Of how conventional Tongbei lacks stopping power, and the Wuxing Tongbei that I do, have more stopping power. Put on your hand.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that too. Okay, so we're gonna first go with 摔掌. Okay, so conventional 摔掌, which looks something like this. Right, like if you see in Bian Tongbei, it's actually trained like this. So it will look like that. I mean, you feel some impact, right? But it's not a lot. Right? Would you say if it hits you, will it be really sore?
No, not really.
It's gonna more like a slap, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like getting slapped by a chip. Well, I don't mean to to look down on this type of attack, but it's just to show the magnitude of the kind of power you're getting. Now in our lineage, we don't actually call this 摔掌, right? We call this 单手. So in our lineage, 摔掌is a different move where it goes like this. And if we were to do it forward, we can do it forward as well. The base 摔掌 goes downwards, and then we can go forward as well. Eventually, I'm gonna make a video just on the difference in 摔掌, but just for this video's sake, if this is the head, I'm doing our version of 摔掌is like this. Okay, it's a different.
It's a lot heavier.
Lot heavier.
Yeah.
So think if I will hit your head with this, it will damage more than
Yes,
if I did this.
Yeah.
Okay, and on another note, if you're looking at the combo, right, which is the typical combo of 摔, 拍, 钻, right, let's just use this as a base. So in the conventional version, when you do 摔, 拍, it's just 2 attacks, and then you do a 钻, right, it's 3 attacks. But in our lineage, that 摔 is there to break his structure. What that means is, okay, let's pretend it's not here.
Okay.
So when I'm going for the 摔掌 and I meet a resistance on the hand, I don't just do this and then do that. Okay, so conventional Tongbei, they either just do 3 attacks, ignoring the hand. You can't just wanna outspeed the guy by doing that. Or they will try to pull, but it is a regular pull. So you just pull a little bit so you can hit the head, and then when this one tries to go for the head, then you punch the stomach. That's roughly how conventional Tongbei approach to this 3-hit combo, the classical Tongbei 3-hit combo. But in our lineage, when we do 摔掌, it's actually like this, and then the punch. So this 摔, when it turns downwards, it actually is intended to break structure. It's not just a simple grab. It's like that, right? And then there, and then there. So that is 摔. And then we're gonna look at 拍, right? It's 摔, 拍, and 钻. So 拍 as well. Conventional 拍 is quite a light attack. It's almost like the 摔. It's more like a jab than anything else. So it's like this, right? So you all do this practice. So in the self-defense context, it's also more like don't move. It's more like a jab. So it's like jab, jab, right? And then you try to then do the punch. And again, in our lineage, 拍 is very different too. Now, if you look at the example I just showed, both the 摔 and this 拍 is pivoted around the elbow joint a lot. So the power or the motion comes from the arms. But in our lineage, we want the whole body to 拍. So if we do a 拍, it would be like that. The difference?
Well, I feel the effect a lot more.
So it's more magnitude behind the power.
Yeah, basically.
And that's because I'm not moving just this. As I'm extending the hand, the whole body is rotating, right? So the pie is not just there, but like that. And now if we were to put this on the body, So the conventional pipe will be something like this. So there's still some impact, but it's more surface-based, right? It's just there. Whereas for us, like I always say, it's the hammer and the nail. So the hand is a nail, the body is the hammer. So it will be more in line of like that. There's a difference.
Yeah, I feel it on my skin. You know, I don't know how to exactly put it. But the first hit, basically, I don't feel anything.
Okay.
The second hit actually,
it penetrates the pad.
Yeah. Well, I hate non-scientific things like that. But yes, yeah, I feel the impact not just on the pad, but on myself as well.
Yes.
So through the pad.
So if he doesn't have the pad, obviously it will hurt a lot more than if it's just like that. Okay, then also just gonna briefly look at Zhuan. Yeah, let's do the other side because it's levels. I think this will be better. Okay. Okay, so obviously I no longer practice the conventional Zhuan. So one could argue that my representation of the other lineages mid punch is not as good as they would have done it, which is true. But I would argue that even if they were to do it, the body mechanic itself limits how much power they can generate. So if we have the same body weight, or same muscle type, kind of two person, one does it their way, one does it my lineage's way, most likely the one from my lineage will deal more damage, simply because of the way the body mechanic works. Okay, because the way they do it, again, the motion mostly comes from the elbow extension, and then the body also leans forward. So it's like a push, right? You can feel that. I'm like just ramming my body there. So if you look at it from a third person perspective, the effect looks nice because the guy is actually moving back. But do you feel any pain?
Not too.
Okay, I'm gonna do it fast. Obviously, I'm not do it too slow. I'm gonna try to do it faster.
No.
Okay, so obviously it will be painful if he doesn't have the pad. But with the pad, he's not really feeling the pain, and more of a push. And in martial arts, the more distance you create, the less damage he actually receives, because the fact that he's moving back is dissipating the force, right? Does that make sense in physics?
Yeah.
So the actual punch that want to hurt people was, you don't want him to move. But if you're extending your arm like this and your body, then you are going to end up pushing him, because that's the nature of this kind of motion. You can't extend your limb without it resulting into a pushing force. So obviously if you do it faster, you can make the push force less, right? Because the slower you are with applying force, the more of a push it is. If I do it faster, then there's less push and more penetration. But I would say that as long as you're doing this towards the end, then it will always be more push than actual impact. Okay. In our lineage, we obviously don't lean forward with the punch, and we try to actually not extend the arm much. So instead, the punch is like this. Can we do it? You ready?
Yeah.
The difference?
Yeah, I feel it. I feel there's a few of impact on. First of all, not just over here, it's the whole area, and also it feels like that the pad doesn't help stopping the force. Okay. So stopping the impact, not the force.
Yeah, so it's hard to.
So I feel it.
So it's hard to see it, through camera, but there is a difference between pushing like this and again the nail and hammer. I put my arm there and my whole body suddenly do this and generate the power. And notice the motion is much shorter, right? This is a longer motion. Even if you do it faster, it's still a longer traveling motion. Whereas this is much shorter. I'm not relying on this. And you physics, you want to add on this?
Nothing much, to be honest.
So the physics makes sense, right? What I just said about
the pushing and
the pushing and the impact.
Yeah, basically.
So you want a shorter force, a shorter motion to generate the force. The longer the motion, the more it will become a push. So that's what I mean by stopping power. Okay, and furthermore, basically every time we touch someone, we want to disrupt him. That's also part of this concept of stopping force. So just already talk about shuai, right? When we shuai and we make resistance, it's going down. And when it's going down, that's where the next hit comes through. I've actually showed all of this in my video on introduction to Wuxing Tongbei. So you could just check it there. But just in case you're lazy and you don't want to go there, I'm going to give you a few examples. So, for example, 转环掌 is when we lower the hand and then this hand comes in like that. And then this one hits over there. So again, right, the moment this is the lowering hand, so this one doesn't do much. But the moment I'm contacted here, I'm doing that to the person. And give me some more resistance. Yep. You see, even when there's resistance, his whole body gets dragged, which is allowing me to use that moment of weakness to hit over there. When we touch something, we want to disrupt it, right? Same with 圈手, which goes like this. Which goes like this, right? Combination 圈手, they basically wanna. So if he attacks first, for example, you're gonna do this and then you do that. But the problem with this is you're not really disrupting him, so it's just a regular block, and he can therefore block you, and that hand can pull back, and then you go up, right? You're not gaining an advantage. But in our lineage, when we do 圈手, it's like that. So his head is already here. I don't even need to go reach for his head. It's again an example of disrupting his force. Whenever I touch him somewhere, that force needs to disrupt. Another example, right? If you lead with that hand, this is another variant of 圈手. So as he punches, it's like that. And from here, if he punches with the other hand, you see, it's always disrupting. Anything I touch, it's going to either go this way or go that way. And between these disruptions is where I create opportunity. So this is another example of stopping power. Okay, once my master, Master Chong, he was at the Beijing Europe Kung Fu camp. It's where people in the Zhenwu organization in Europe, they go to China once every second year to have like a summer camp. And I think one of the students there used to do boxing. It's not like a challenge, and it's not like trying to downplay boxing, right? Just that he did boxing and he was asking Master Chong, what to do with a 1-2. And basically that's what Master Chong showed him. Master Chong said, I'm gonna like hit you with only half the arm. What he mean by that, he only use this half and doesn't use the second half. And what he did was, as he punched, he caught him there, the guy tilted this way, and then when he punches there, then the guy tilted that way, and then his hand, touched him on the face there. So he was able to do that because the guy was off balance. If the force does not alter the guy's balance, it will not have worked. Another example we can look at is 练门掌, which looks like this. Okay, so just give me that hand. So basically, when 练门掌 is, so we basically make contact, and the moment I feel that it's a solid force there, it's that, and you hit. So anything we touch, as you can see, it disrupts, and that's what stopping power is. One is that when you hit someone, it hurts really, really bad, and second, that anything we touch is gonna make him unbalanced, which will create opportunity for me to hit. Anything you want to add?
No.
Okay. So that is stopping power, and that's why when I used to do Baiyan Tongbei initially, I dropped them to do Yiquan because Baiyan Tongbei lacks stopping power. So from here, I hope you can see what I mean by stopping power and why eventually, decided to do Wuxing Tongbei, which has the stopping power that I've been wanting to achieve. The second thing, obviously, is the extension of the first thing. It's the leaning forward of the body. Now, I know this is conventional, right? Tongbei does that because they believe in reaching far, 放长击远. It's a Chinese term. You have to 放长 means to release long and then hit far. So that's why they will do this. The problem to this, in my lineage's viewpoint, keep in mind that my Wuxing Tongbei lineage, great-grandmaster Zhang Ce studied 10 years in a young family. So this is fused with internal Taiji's mechanics and principles. And that's why it's different to conventional Tongbei. If anything, our lineage is actually the incorrect one, shall I say, not the authentic one. We actually changed. The original one actually do lean forward, right? So the problem to that is, yes, I am reaching further, and if he's standing upright and throw a punch, and I'm doing this, I'm gonna be able to hit him. But obviously, you already noticed one thing, right? When I'm reaching for him, my head actually gets closer. The distance between the fist and my head doesn't change. So all that really means is that if he isn't punching, and come forward, and he's standing in this distance, this is like a distance where I can't punch him, I can then start here, and he's saying I can't reach him, but I can reach him. That's probably the only advantage that I can see. But otherwise, if you actually think you can hit him without him hitting you, it doesn't work that way. But when I reach for him, he can hit my head too. If you're aiming for the body, then yeah, maybe he can't reach me and I can reach him. But the head is the same distance, whether you're upright or leaning forward. So that is actually a misconception. It doesn't work that way. And the other fundamental flaw that I see with this kind of approach is you can do a simple test. Get something heavy like a box or something heavy. If you pick up like this, it's relatively easy if you have enough strength. Right? You body upright, you bend your legs and you pick it up. Try to pick it up like this. You will notice the problem, right? It becomes much harder because your body don't have the same kind of support in this position than upright position. So which means when you're punching like this, you're not lending much force from your legs. You try to do an experiment, stand like this, and see how your leg can push up to the body can extend to the fist, and then lean like this, and you see that the leg, at least the back leg almost becomes empty. You can't really push force. It's kind of drawn, overextended. And the front leg obviously also comes. You're in an angle where the force is kind of bent on your waist, unlike this where the force actually can come up. So in a sense, you actually have a bad structure as far as internal martial art goes. Another test you can do is hold out your arms like that, and keep your body upright, right? Like in the mid punch thing, upright, right? So you feel that if I were to push down here, he has more support. But the moment he leans forward, you almost can't resist. Yeah, want to add something from a physics point of view?
Yeah, it's almost like if you think about it, it's almost like a classical example of your load and your fulcrum. Obviously, the closer your load is, your structural weakness is less. Oh, sorry, the closer to your support, your structural.
Okay, so for people who never went to school, what is load? What is load?
Load, heavy object.
Okay.
In this case, yeah, that's a load. Yeah. So any object, any heavy object. So a very classical example would be, I don't know how often you guys lift heavy objects. When you guys trying to reach out and grab a heavy object like a watermelon in the supermarket, or 2-liter bottle of Coke, when you reach out, you can feel that it's heavy. It's hard to lift it. Whereas if the shelf is closer or the bottle is closer, when you reach out, it's easier to grab. Yeah. So that's basically how it is. All of us have most of our support on our foot, and the further away your foot it's away from the load. In that case, when Chris pushes down, it's actually my hand. The further you're away, the harder it is for you to resist the weight of the object. So yes, I mean somebody can argue that with this structure, right, you have got your right leg to play the part, but your right leg is actually closer to your arms. But the problem is that you're not using the rest of your body. It's basically wasted. And the point of you punching is not to resist the downward force, it's actually your punch. But
the reason downward force is important is because more likely I'm going to hit it downwards. I'm not going to hit it this way, right?
So that's basically what it boils down to. Is that you're actually in a very bad structure when you're like that. I mean your legs are too far apart already. You can't move around.
And even if you don't want the guy to hit downwards, this can also be interpreted as just a test to see your overall structural integrity, right? So how much of your body can actually be put into the fist.
Yeah. So that actually comes back to your other half of your body. I mean they're not doing anything. So
So some of you might think, okay, but you see some of the stuff in boxing, right? In boxing, you have something where they'll hit like this and they'll be back. Now the difference with that is that's more like a surprise attack. Mid punch is not supposed to be a surprise attack. It's supposed to be the ending punch, right? If you look at any other Tongbei combo, usually a classic one will start with strike, pai, and mid punch. So this is the end move. It's not like, in boxing, they don't expect to knock a guy out with a body shot. So this is when they don't see any opening up there, and the guy's happy his hand here, and and he's expecting you to come up, and then you go down, and you try to then next time baiting going down, and then you try to hit him there. Something to that effect. It's a different context. So punching to the body, where you extend, is there, but it's not the same purpose as a mid punch in Tongbei should be. And another thing, obviously, that boxing has a very fluid body maneuver and head movement, so the head is not in straight as much as a Tongbei guy. I mean, how often do you see Tongbei guy training head movement? If they do, they're probably doing boxing, and that's not really Tongbei. But the thing is, in Tongbei, as you can see, when the guy does a strike, high, his head is not moving. So by leaning forward and getting as close to the guy, only provided that he also has to deal with your strike, but your head is not protected. The moment you can hit his head, he can hit your head. So if you sidestep and do a hook, for example, then that could get your hit. Not saying that will definitely work, whether it works or not, depending on the two persons at play. But the point is a different context to the boxing one. Obviously, in boxing, if I just low punch and someone trying to hit me, I can always move back or duck around because they are trained with that kind of fluidity in the body motion to bob and weave the head around. But because Tongbei doesn't have that, it's much a bigger risk to do this and punch. And furthermore, in the context of Chinese martial arts, community, it's even worse because Chinese martial arts, at least internal martial art, they excel at breaking structure. And by doing that, you're just making your structure worse, easier to break. So for camera sake, let's do the other way. So use this hand.
Okay.
A classic example, right? If you're watching my old videos, you know I used to train with a Baiyuan Tongbei master called Zhang Xinbin, who's around 2010. He had a friendly challenge with a Wuxing Tongbei master, which is my current master, and he lost. After that, he was then taken to my Wuxing Tongbei master's elder Tongbei brother, Master Zhang, right? So he was taken there, and Master Zhang asked him to demonstrate what he do in his own Baiyuan Tongbei system. And the one thing he did was a mid punch, but like a leaned out one. And essentially, Master Zhang, my eldest Wuxing Tongbei uncle, the head of the style, or head of my lineage at the moment, Zhang Fushun, right? He said that if you do this to me, I will make you both knees touch the ground. What he meant by that is basically he's able to generate enough power that will probably wobble his legs to break his whole structure. I don't do that, but I think he probably can. He's really high level, compared to my understanding of Chinese martial arts. And then he asked my own my own Wuxing Tongbei master, Master Chong Deshun, saying, what do you think? And my master said he will just do liao yin zhang. So essentially what that means is, if the guy did a mid punch with the body forward, he will do this. And then he'll just hit his face up. It's called liao yin zhang. We usually hit people's balls with it, but in this case...
So, that's how the relative structure is.
Yeah, but in this case, you can simply break this and hit it right up the jaw. So that is how we see as a problem when you are overarching, overextending with a mid punch. And the same would be said for, if you have overstanding pai zhang, overstanding shuai zhang, any of these things. Even if you overextend, your head is going to get hit by people who are well prepared to exploit that kind of structure. Okay, so just to put it into context, the difference between leaning and not leaning, I'm just going to do the motion, right? So the three-hit combo when you lean will look something like this. So the body will lean here, 1, 2, and 3, right? So every shot the body leans, And obviously you're gonna probably bend the leg more, so it looks nicer and it kind of makes it look less leaning. But you actually still leaning, no matter how low your stance is. Whereas in my lineage, it will be here. It's almost like Tai Chi, like this, right? It will be Shuai, Tai, Zuan. You can see the body is upright. It's never, not here, not here, and not here does the body ever lean. Another typical example that you can see from the video, he does, I think it's like a P, and then a push, okay? So if you look, that one is another good example where you can see he leans a lot. So he will be like here, or he will be like, and there, and he comes back. Another example of when someone leans a lot. We don't have actually a combo where you do P chaining into double hand push, but we do have both P individually and the double hand push individually. And when we do obviously P, right, the body's upright, and when we do the double hand push, body again is upright. In fact, once my master Chong, particularly told me that even if you can't push someone and make him fly backwards, the least you can do is not fall into him should you mess up. What that means is, if I'm pushing and leaning, if at the moment he dragged on my hand, I'm going to lose balance and end up falling into him. Okay? So what he means is that even if I can't hurt the guy with double push, the least I can do is not lean into the guy. And to do that, when I'm pushing, my body is actually sitting back. It's an opposing force, right? The arms goes forward, my body goes back. It's a force that goes in two ways. This particular motion is almost like each right? Where they do forward and back at the same time. So I'm not pushing like this. I'm pushing like that. My back is going this way. So that's another difference of our lineage of Tongbei's double hand push and the other lineage. So it all goes to show how most of the normal conventional Tongbei leans and we don't. But of course, like I've always been stressing, it doesn't mean what they do is wrong, it's just different perspective. But I do believe our understanding is more optimized in terms of structure, balance, and combat efficiency than those who leans. But obviously, if you don't agree, it's also fine. This is, a freedom of choice. You don't have to agree with me on this. Okay, now, so in this, short video, it is like an application. Now, the problem I have with this application is, again, if you put it into a realistic context, which is something you have to train yourself to do, is to see, okay, if both people are moving at full speed, what will happen as a result? So in this video, the guy did a punch here, and then you can just do a stand-up punch.
Okay, okay.
There's another guy did something like this, and then he hit him there, and then went there, and then tripped him. Okay. So in slow motion, this thing seems viable. Problem is, if you were to do a punch at me and pull back, okay, see what happens? You don't have this. And if you were to do a 1-2, yeah, you're going to probably get hit in your face. So there's no reason that guy's hand is going to stay here and let you take it to the side and get to the head and do this. Okay, it's not going to happen because the guy's not going to let you do that. Now, what he could have done, obviously, you could argue that he's not showing the full thing, which I would never know because I don't know him in person. But from what I can see from this video and other videos I've seen in the past of the same person is that he doesn't have structure breaking force, which is the important thing for something like this to work. So if I were to want to do something similar, we don't have the same technique. This isn't a conventional Tongbei technique finding all the lineages. But if I were to do something in similar regard, I want his hand to stay rather than pulling back. I need to break his structure. If I just want to turn, even if I do catch him, he's gonna pull it back that way. It's not gonna stay. So how I'm gonna make him stay is by breaking the structure completely. Then he can't take it back. But to do that, you need power. You need structure power, relaxed thinking force, rotational force, and all the four forces that we've already covered. Right? I mean, do you feel the difference?
Yes, yeah, definitely. It's basically it stops me from maneuvering,
Yes.
from doing anything. It occupies me. It might not damage me, but I definitely don't have the freedom to move anymore. Because of the effects of the move.
And after that, I wouldn't, I wouldn't do a throw or hit here and then throw. I mean, you can do that, but the classical Tongbei response, this is shit across all Tongbei lineages, that if I have opportunity to do mid punch, and and be done with it. That's the actual Tongbei way, and we end a lot of the combos are ending with a mid punch. This is the one that's supposed to, if you go in the solar plexus or you go in the ribs, it's supposed to deal significant damage if you hit hard enough.
But that trip move is actually a Tongbei one.
I don't know, it's from their lineage of Tongbei. It's not in my Tongbei. I've never seen it.
That's the first time that I heard somebody tripping.
Look, I mean, the Baiyan Tongbei, for example, in the New Jie Muslim street, they have wrestling, because one of the previous generation, he trained wrestling too. But this is like a different branch. I don't know where they got this tricking from. So Baiyan Tongbei has wrestling throws, but they actually come from wrestling, Chinese wrestling, not from Tongbei. And whereas Wuxing Tongbei come from Qi family Tongbei, so in our lineage there's no wrestling at all. We just try to hit people and hurt them really, really bad. Okay, so some of you now, after watching that, might think, maybe that guy is just doing in slow motion, right? That when the guy punches, maybe he's just doing it in slow motion. That is why his hand isn't flying. His structure isn't disrupted. The problem is, though, you have to look at the trajectory. Okay, the way he does it, he's doing a circle this way. Okay, while it is true that if he stays stationary here and I do the circle fast enough, I can't disrupt him. Okay, that is true. However, he's actually throwing a punch in real time. I don't have, and pull back, of course. I don't have the. Okay, let me touch you, then pull back. I don't have the time to apply that circular force to affect him because this thing is moving quite fast. Out of a whole punch, in fact, the tip of the fist travels the fastest, right? The elbow actually travels slower. The arm here almost don't travel much, but this travels the fastest. So if you try to catch this in mid-punch and affect it so that it drags the whole arm around, that is the impossible part, right? Makes sense on a physics perspective. So if he's putting it here, yes, I can do this quite easily. But the moment the punch is live, then even if I touch him, you see, he gets a minor disruption, but he is able to pull back. Now, how would we do in our lineage? Like I said, we don't have the same technique, but we can take an example at Quanshou. Quanshou is almost similar, okay? So, it's this hand, yeah, my Quanshou is more comfortable on this side. Don't really press my lips. Because I don't have a lot of time. Okay, so Quanshou is similar. If you look from the surface, it's also this way, and then I roll that way, and then following was a pai jump. However, there's a subtle difference that makes all the difference in the world. Is that I'm intercepting him first of all as closer to his shoulder as possible. I'm not trying to deal with this. I'm dealing with this. So they are much more likely to connect than if I try to catch this. Right? If I try to catch this, I can catch it, but I can't have the time to exert force. But if I'm catching him there, then I can catch his force a lot easier. That's the first thing. Second thing is the trajectory. I'm not trying to spin him from here. If you want to spin him from here, you can. What you want to do is you got to do a small parry, which is like this. But that's a different move altogether because it's very small. So even if I don't affect him as much, or if I miss, I'm still here. So, I'm still safe. But if you do like that video where he does a big motion trying to go into here, if you miss this, then you stuck. Okay, now back to Quanshou. So the reason Quanshou works is because I'm actually hitting him this way first. I'm not trying to turn him. It's a downwards cut. I only turn when the downwards cut reaches its end and I still feel resistance. If I don't feel that resistance, when he punches, it's just going to be there. But when I feel resistance, then I turn. And then then it's here and there. So the reason Quanshou works and the other one don't is because of the axis I'm going is not directly circular. I'm first going this way. And if I succeed, I'm already breaking his balance and structure. And he's already having trouble pulling it back. and then I attempt to spin it. If I spin it out of the box, then he is going to have a better chance of escaping. But the moment I touch him, I'm already altering the course of his arm by doing this. And then while I'm doing that, I then turn. And that's how transfer works, but the other one don't.